The bridal suite smelled sweet, a mix of lilies and pure excitement. Sunlight poured through the tall, arched windows of the old manor, catching dust motes that danced in the air like tiny diamonds. It looked just like a fairy tale, the perfect start to a story of love and forever. Every single detail had been obsessed over, every ribbon curled, every flower placed just so. This was supposed to be the first day of the rest of their lives, a perfect memory for Alara to cherish. The man waiting for her at the end of the aisle, Liam, wasn't just her fiancé, he was her everything. The one who had built her world back up with a charming smile and what she thought was unwavering devotion. Or so she believed. Everything was perfect. The gown felt like it was made for her, a whisper of lace and silk. Her heart was beating a frantic, happy rhythm against her ribs. She was ready. But as she prepared to walk down the aisle, a single, anonymous envelope arrived. And inside it was a secret so devastating, it was about to turn her dream wedding into a living nightmare. In that one moment, the happiest day of her life became a choice between the future she always wanted and a horrifying truth that no one, least of all her, ever saw coming. To understand just how deep the ground was about to crack open beneath Alara's feet, you have to understand the world she thought she was living in. It was a world of shared laughs, of inside jokes whispered in crowded rooms, and of the comforting weight of Liam's hand in hers. They'd met 2 years ago in a sudden downpour, a real-life rom-com moment. Alara was wrestling with a broken umbrella, soaked and annoyed, when Liam appeared with a laugh that seemed to chase the clouds away, holding a giant golf umbrella over both of them. He was the checklist personified. A successful financial consultant, smart and ambitious, but with a disarming gentleness. He actually listened when she talked about her job as a pediatric nurse, his eyes full of genuine interest. He remembered the little things, the name of her favorite obscure band, her allergy to cinnamon, how she liked her coffee in the morning. He'd completely charmed her family, winning over her skeptical dad with talks about vintage cars and her mom with perfect manners and praise for her cooking. To her friends, he was simply the guy who set the bar impossibly high. Their relationship was a blur of perfect dates, spontaneous trips, and the slow, wonderful process of 2 lives becoming one. When he proposed 6 months ago, on a rowboat, in the middle of the same lake where they'd had their 3rd date, it wasn't a question of if she'd say yes, but how fast she could. Spent hours picking out the dusty rose and sage green color scheme with her mom and bridesmaids. The guest list was a tight-knit group of everyone who had watched their love story unfold. Now, in the last few moments before the ceremony, Alara looked at her reflection. The woman staring back was the happiest she'd ever been. Her hair was swept into an elegant chignon, her face flushed with excitement. The dress, a classic A-line with delicate beading, flowed around her like a cloud. It was the dress she'd dreamed about since she was a little girl. Her sister and maid of honor, Chloe, fixed a stray curl. "You look breathtaking, Alara." "Truly." Her mother stood by the door, dabbing her eyes with a handkerchief. "I've never seen you look so happy, my love. Liam is a very lucky man." Alara smiled, a real smile that lit up her face. "I'm the lucky one," she said softly. "I can't wait to be his wife." Downstairs, the string quartet was starting to play. The guests were all seated, their faces turned toward the aisle. And at the altar, Liam was waiting. He looked every bit the handsome, eager groom in his sharp tuxedo. He was chatting with his best man, his brother, but if you looked closely, you might have seen the tension in his shoulders, or the way he kept checking his watch. You might have seen a flicker of something in his eyes that wasn't just nerves. It was the gnawing anxiety of a man juggling 2 different worlds, praying to God they would never, ever collide. And that's when the first wrong note was played. A soft knock at the door broke the calm. It wasn't her dad. It was a member of the venue staff, holding a small, elegantly wrapped box. "A delivery for Miss Alara," the young woman said politely. "The courier was very clear it had to be delivered to you, personally, right now." Chloe took the box, a frown on her face. "Thank you." She shut the door. The box was small, wrapped in simple silver paper with a white ribbon. No card, no name. Totally anonymous. Ooh, a secret admirer, one of the bridesmaids teased. Getting one last gift in before you're off the market. Alara laughed, but a tiny knot of unease formed in her stomach. It's probably just a gag gift from my cousins. Chloe handed her the box. It felt cool and surprisingly heavy. Alara's fingers, which had been steady moments before, now fumbled with the ribbon. She pulled it loose and tore the paper. Inside, on a bed of black velvet, wasn't jewelry. It was a simple, heart-shaped silver locket. It was pretty, but it felt cold, impersonal. How strange, her mother murmured. Who would send you this? Alara's thumb found the clasp. With a soft click, it sprang open. Her breath hitched. She expected a photo of her and Liam, maybe a sweet message. Instead, both sides were empty, their polished surfaces reflecting a distorted, shocked version of her own face. But tucked into the left side was a tiny, folded piece of paper. Her hands were shaking now as she carefully pulled the note out. She unfolded it. The message was typed, the font cold and clinical. Before you say I do, you deserve to know who you're really marrying. The truth isn't always pretty asterisk. Below the words was a web address and a short password. A cold dread shot through the warmth of her happiness. The air in the room suddenly felt thin. The chatter from her bridesmaids faded to a buzz. What is it, honey? Her mother asked, her voice full of concern. Alara couldn't speak. She just held out the tiny piece of paper. Chloe took it. As she read the words, her face went pale. What is this? Some kind of sick joke, she spat, her voice fierce with anger. Who does this on someone's wedding day? It's probably a virus, or some horrible prank. Alara, ignore it. Throw it away. Another bridesmaid chimed in. She's right. It's a jealous ex, don't let them win. Liam is waiting for you. Yes, Liam was waiting. Perfect, loving, dependable Liam. This had to be a cruel joke. She should throw it away, crumple it up, and walk down that aisle. She should. But she didn't. The message had planted a seed of doubt. And that seed was now sprouting, watered by a sudden, unwelcome flood of memories, unexplained late nights he'd passed off as work emergencies. Vague answers about a business trip to a city where his company didn't even have an office. The way he sometimes angled his phone away from her. At the time, they were nothing, tiny details explained away by trust. But now, looking at them through the lens of this sinister message, they were starting to form a sick pattern. I have to know, she whispered. Alara, no, Chloe pleaded. Don't do this to yourself. Not now. We're 5 minutes away from you getting married. 5 minutes or a lifetime, Alara said, her voice strangely calm. I have to know. Her eyes scanned the room and landed on her laptop, sitting on a desk in the corner. The decision was made. The fairy tale could wait. The truth, whatever it was, could not. The world shrank to the size of the laptop screen. The music drifting up from the garden below felt like it was from another life, a life that wasn't hers anymore. Her bridesmaids and her mother stood around her in a stunned, helpless circle, their festive dresses suddenly looking like costumes at a funeral. Alara's fingers trembled as she typed in the web address. It led to a stark black page asking for a password. She entered it. For a second, nothing happened. Just a black void staring back. She was about to slam the laptop shut, a wave of relief washing over her, when the page loaded. It was titled, The Other Life of Liam Carter. It wasn't just a photo. It was a whole, meticulously organized archive. A digital monument to a lie. The first thing she clicked on was a photo album. The main picture was of Liam, but he was standing on a sunny porch with curly hair. They looked like a family. A happy one. The caption read, Summer Barbecue, 2024. Last summer. While he was supposedly on a solo hiking trip to find himself. A choked gasp escaped Alara's lips. It couldn't be real. It had to be photoshopped. But as she clicked, photo after photo, her denial crumbled. Liam at a pumpkin patch with the little boy on his shoulders. Liam and the woman, Sarah, in matching Christmas pajamas. Liam holding the boy as a newborn, his face filled with a look of pure love she thought he reserved only for her. The dates spanned 5 years. Their entire relationship, plus 3 years before. This wasn't a past mistake. It was his present. Her life with him, the one she was about to make official, was the lie. Her fingers numbly clicked another tab, emails. It was a thread between Liam and Sarah. It was painfully domestic. They talked about leaky faucets and parent-teacher conferences for their son, Noah. They argued about money. In one email from just 3 weeks ago, Liam wrote, *, this deal in the city is taking longer than I thought, my love. The travel is killing me, but it'll all be worth it. Just a little longer and I can finally be home for good. Kiss Noah for me. *. The deal in the city. That was her. She was the deal. Nausea rose in her throat. She felt like she was an actress in a play, and she was the only one who didn't know her lines were meaningless. Another knock on the door, more insistent this time. It was her father. Ilara? Honey, it's time. Everyone's waiting. His voice was cheerful, completely unaware. Chloe went to the door. Just one more minute, Dad. Finishing touches. Her voice was tight and unnatural. Ilara barely heard them. She had clicked on the last tab, Finances. It was a collection of scanned documents. Bank statements. A mortgage application for the house in the pictures, co-signed by Liam Carter and Sarah Jennings. A life insurance policy listing Sarah as the primary beneficiary. Ilara's name was nowhere. The most chilling document was a bank statement for an account she'd never seen. It showed a huge withdrawal from 2 days ago, for almost the exact amount Liam's parents had gifted them for the wedding. He wasn't just lying, he was stealing from their future to fund his real one. The betrayal was so total it was beyond heartbreak. It was a complete erasure of who she was. Every memory was now tainted, every I love you a lie. The man she was about to marry didn't exist. He was a phantom. She finally looked up from the screen, her eyes hollow. She saw her reflection in the dark monitor, the ridiculous white dress, the perfect hair. She looked like a fool. Her mother was crying silently. Chloe stood beside her, her face a mask of pure rage. I'm going to kill him, Chloe whispered. I'm going to go down there and tear him apart in front of everyone. No, Ilara said. Hard clarity. He's not your monster to slay. She stood up and walked to the full-length mirror. The happy bride was gone. In her place was a woman who had been hollowed out, but not broken. Her father knocked again, his voice tight with worry. Ilara, what's going on? She took a deep breath, straightened her shoulders, and looked at her sister. Open the door, Chloe, she said, her voice ringing with a chilling new authority. It's time. I'm ready to walk down the aisle. The walk to the grand hall was the longest of Ilara's life. Her father offered his arm, sensing something was terribly wrong but not knowing what. He tried to make a joke about her being a runaway bride, but the words died when he saw the look in her eyes. It wasn't nerves. It was the look of a soldier marching into battle. When the large oak doors swung open, the room went silent. The string quartet swelled into the bridal march. Every head turned to her, expecting to see a blushing, joyful bride. She knew she wasn't giving them that. Her eyes scanned the room, but she didn't see the flowers or the smiling faces. Child. A collective gasp echoed through the hall. Her own mother's hand flew to her mouth. Liam's father shot to his feet, his face turning purple with disbelief. This is a lie. Liam finally shouted, his voice desperate. She's not well. Someone is playing a horrible trick on her. Ilara turned to him, her eyes boring into his. The love was gone, replaced by pure contempt. Is Sarah Jennings a lie? She asked, her voice dropping to a lethal, conversational tone. Is your son, Noah, a lie? Is the house you share with them on Oakwood Drive a lie? Every word was a nail in his coffin. Liam just stared, his mouth opening and closing like a fish. The specific details, the names, the address, they were undeniable. His carefully built world had just been demolished in front of everyone. His mask dissolved, revealing the cornered, pathetic fraud underneath. She turned back to the guests. I'm sorry to have brought you all here for this. But I'm not sorry for telling the truth. There will be no wedding. But please, stay. Enjoy the food, enjoy the music. Let this be a celebration. Not of a marriage, but of a disaster avoided. A celebration of truth. With that, she put the microphone down. She took off the enormous diamond ring, the symbol of his grand lie, and placed it gently on the table next to the unity candle. Then, with her head held high, she turned and walked, alone, back down the aisle as the stunned crowd parted for her. The fairy tale was over. Her real life was just beginning. The silence Alara left behind was heavy, like the air after an explosion. Then, chaos. Not loud, but a fractured, whispering pandemonium as everyone turned to each other, their phones suddenly out. All eyes went to Liam, who was still frozen at the altar like a statue of public disgrace. His own brother, his best man, stared at him in horror. His mother was sobbing with shame. But it was his father who moved first. He strode up the aisle, his face a thundercloud of rage. He didn't yell. He walked right up to his son, grabbed his arm, and said in a low, menacing voice, "You and I are going to have a talk." Then he all but dragged Liam out of the hall toward a private reckoning that was sure to be even worse than the public one. Alara didn't stop walking until she was back in the bridal suite. The room that had been a happy haven an hour ago now felt like a tomb. The sweet scent of lilies was suffocating. Her family found her there minutes later. Chloe rushed in, wrapping her in a fierce hug. Her father stood behind them, his face etched with a pain and fury that seemed to age him 10 years in an hour. "I am so sorry, Alara," he kept repeating. Her mother, her own eyes red, got to work dismantling the day, making phone calls, talking to the wedding planner, managing the disaster with a strength Alara never knew she had. They formed a protective wall around her. The next few hours were a surreal blur. Alara finally unzipped the beautiful dress and let it fall to the floor like a shed skin. She took the pins from her hair and scrubbed the makeup from her face. This was a grief deeper than tears. She was mourning a future that was never real and re-examining a past that was entirely fake. Every cherished memory was now a crime scene. She later learned, in bits and pieces, what happened to Liam. The anonymous messenger was a close friend of Sarah's, who had gotten suspicious of Liam's constant business trips and hired a PI. The friend tried to tell Sarah, but she was in denial. So, the friend made sure the truth came out in a way no one could deny. The fallout was swift. Sarah, faced with the public evidence, threw him out. His family, who valued their reputation above all else, basically disowned him. His firm, hearing about the scandal and the stolen money, suspended him. In one afternoon, Liam Carter lost everything. Both of his lives imploded, leaving him with nothing. Hearing this, Alara felt strangely detached. There was no satisfaction in his ruin. Just a vast, aching emptiness where her love used to be. Her only concern now was figuring out how to take the next breath. And the one after that. The weeks that followed were gray. Alara felt like a ghost. Friends and family brought food and offered words of comfort, but their pity often felt just as heavy as her grief. The world saw her as either a hero or a tragic victim. She felt like neither. She just felt empty. The beautiful honeymoon to Italy she'd dreamed of for years was, of course, cancelled. Instead, she sat on her couch, surrounded by wilting floral arrangements. The cruelty of it all was overwhelming. It was Chloe who finally broke through the fog. She showed up one evening with 2 plane tickets. "You're not going to Italy," she said, in a tone that wasn't up for debate. "But we're going somewhere. You can't let him take the sun from you, too." They went to a quiet little beach town in Portugal. For the first few days, Alara just watched the waves crash on the shore, a constant rhythm of destruction and renewal. She watched the tide wash away all the footprints in the sand, and slowly, something inside her started to shift. The waves weren't just destroying, they were cleansing. One morning, she walked down to the ocean alone and waded into the cold water. She thought about the woman she was on her wedding day, so full of hope, so naive. She grieved for that woman and her stolen innocence. But as she stood there, surrounded by the vast, powerful ocean, she felt a flicker of something new. It wasn't happiness, not yet. It was resilience. The man she thought she knew was a lie, but her feelings had been real. Her ability to love, to trust, to hope, those were all hers. He had used them, but he hadn't destroyed them. Maybe the surprise on her wedding day wasn't a curse. Maybe it was a painful, brutal gift that saved her from a lifetime of lies. She had chosen a devastating truth over a beautiful lie, and in doing so, she had saved hers. Herself. When she got home, she was different. The emptiness was still there, but it wasn't a black hole anymore. It was just space. Space for something new. She sold the house she'd bought with Liam and threw herself back into her work at the hospital. She started making plans for a future that was entirely her own. Her wedding day wasn't the end of her story. In a strange, painful way, it was the beginning. Alara's story is an incredible reminder that our most painful moments can be the very things that reveal our own strength. It really makes you think, doesn't it? What would you have done? Would you have confronted him publicly like she did, or handled that kind of earth-shattering news in private? There's no right or wrong answer, but thinking about it says a lot about who we are. Let us know what you think in the comments below. We genuinely love reading your perspectives. And if you found this story as powerful as we did, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel for more stories that dig into the messy, hidden truths of life. Make sure to hit that notification bell so you don't miss what's coming next. In the end, the most shocking surprise on that wedding day wasn't the secret locket or the lie it exposed. It was the strength Alara found in herself. She walked down that aisle expecting to start a new life with someone else, but instead, she took the first step toward finding herself again. Her story shows us that we aren't defined by the betrayals we face, but by how we choose to rise from the ashes.